Hey, deserving listeners, season 2, Love is Blind. Finally, let's watch.
Punch drywall.
Oh.
I have a dirt bike too, just to top it off.
Oh, God.
I wish I looked like J-Lo.
Hello?
There's no place like home.
Oh my God, I gotta pick my wedgie again.
Okay, I'm not really quite sure. I mean, I'm guessing that's edited, but who was that person? They're introducing us to so many people. That's Olivia. Olivia was talking to herself about she wants to be like J-Lo. She's ignoring this fella. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if they edited it weird, but, notable. We'll keep track.
Are you ready for marriage?
Yeah, definitely.
So I was actually engaged before. Long story short, God said no.
What does that mean?
Okay, so I will say it's a bit voyeuristic to watch. There's certain scenes where it seems like it's reality TV, but sometimes they're having pretty intimate conversations and flirty conversations that it just feels. I know they know they're on a reality TV show, but I don't know. It just feels like I should be not watching to give them their own privacy. But anyway. So she's saying she was engaged before, and she says, long story short, God said no. Let's see what she says.
He was honestly like very, 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 very controlling. Like crazy. We called off the wedding like 40 days before the wedding. It was probably like the craziest time of my life, but I grew a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so very, 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 very controlling, i.e. probably abusive, I'm guessing. So good for her for getting out of that relationship. But I wonder if we'll learn more about those details and maybe the trauma.
You are?
I'm half.
Latina vibes over there.
Oh my God.
I love buying clothes for girls. Yeah, what's your size?
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with saying I like to buy clothes or gifts for my partners, right? I mean, my dad buys, coats for my mom. It's nothing, and I think he likes to do that for her. So there's nothing wrong with that. But there are other possibilities, right, of control. There is a known phenomenon among abusive people. I'm not saying that fella is abusive, obviously, but I'm just wondering why he'd be saying that, how these other people are. So, let's use this show as a jumping off point. I don't know if this person is abusive, but abusive people will sometimes learn from the past that it's better to weed out people in the beginning who are not receptive to coercion. And one of the ways, there's a variety of ways you can do that, but one of the ways you can do that is to give signals of control. In fact, some people, the way they were raised, they actually subconsciously are looking to recreate that relationship. If you grow up with abusive parents, sometimes you will look for abusive partners subconsciously. You, obviously, it's not a conscious thing. You're not like, yay, abuse, I like that. But you ask anyone who grew up with a lot of abuse growing up, and they will say, often, not always, that somehow they're able to sniff out the abusive person and date them, and then find out 6 months later that they're right back where they started as a child. And so one of the ways that abusive relationships can find each other, if you will, is through these small signals. And, I would say that I don't think I've ever heard of that before. Well, I think I have, along those lines of an abusive person testing someone in the beginning around those kinds of things. Like, I really like to, dress my women, so to speak. And then, some women are going to be like, what the F? And some women are going to be like, oh, well, that would be nice to have someone. That'd be one thing I wouldn't have to worry about. Or that means that he cares about me, because that's the conscious thought. But of course, the unconscious thought is a realization of like, oh, I wonder if this person will help me recreate a past relationship that I haven't healed from. And of course, you want to go to therapy to become aware of these patterns and heal from the past, such that you don't need to recreate as a way of attempting to subconsciously heal. Anyway, I'm not saying that guy is abusive. They're throwing a lot of data, and I'm actually keeping notes this time because I'm not going to make the mistake of, because there's so many names and people. So I'm just trying to find something to say.
Would you like working out?
Yeah, not a huge fan.
Really?
Yep.
Ooh, I get along best with individuals that do work out.
Okay, so I don't know if this fella is playing it up for the cameras, or he's just extremely blunt, or there's something notable about his personality. I'm guessing we'll get some data. Hopefully, we'd be interested. But he is rubbing people wrong. But on one hand, it's like, well, if you know your preference or kind of a deal breaker is like, I like to be with people who work out a lot. It's a big part of my life, and I've learned from the past that I really probably should look for someone that works out a lot as well. And so he asks, her name is Hope, I believe, do you work out? She's like, not really a fan. And good for her for just being like, yeah, because it's one of those things, I think particularly with younger people today, that it's unheard of. Just, it's sort of like, well, anyway, point is that I think his name is Shake, that's his nickname. He is saying that he wants to be with someone who works out a lot. Okay, but there's something interesting about his personality. Maybe we'll get some more data.
How old are you?
33.
I prefer dating younger.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
Yikes. So, again, if you have preferences, it's fine. But why would you have that preference? He's 32, she's 33. He prefers dating people younger. Okay. So on one hand, it's fine to have your preferences. On another hand, that probably says something about you. I mean, given what we've seen thus far, we're piecing together a profile. It's like, I'm always speculating. I have no idea. And maybe they're editing it funny. Who knows? But I will say that when I have worked with clients and studied individuals, that when you have men who they don't want to date people their own age, there are a number of possibilities. One is that they want control, and they sometimes erroneously equate youth or younger relative to them as being beneath them, as being inferior to them, and therefore they're going to have more power over someone that's younger. But, if he dated a 25-year-old, it's not inherently a power, difference. Maybe on average it would be, because you're likely not to have as much money, maybe not as much social power or something. But anyway, I mean, unless he's talking about like 18-year-olds, I'm guessing that's not what he's talking about. But the other possibility is that there are men who are socialized to, because our society is like this, that your partner reflects on you. And so if you have a fancy, photogenic partner, impressive partner that, looks the part of a trophy wife or something, then you look cooler. And if you have that concern because you have deep feelings of inferiority and you need to put out this vibe that you're superior, you might grasp for these markers of look how youthful and, whatever the associations that he has with younger women than 33. Like 33 to me is pretty young compared to me. But anyway, so that's another possibility that will add to the very loose hypothesis list. Another would be that he's just a youthful personality and has learned that he doesn't get along with people his own age because his maturity is less and he is more adolescent or something, and knows that vibe-wise he doesn't get along with people's own age along those lines. That happens sometimes. So anyway, but for her, I'm keeping notes, Cassidy, she's like, wait, what? And so that's the other thing we talk about, is a lot of women will go online and will, because you put your age in, and on some websites you can actually even learn this on what people's preferences are. If you're a heterosexual woman, that you realize that men your own age, particularly the older you get, like if you're 50, 60 years old, that men your own age do not want to date you just purely based on your age. There's just like, no, I'm done with, a 50. It's not uncommon for a 55, and they have all these stats. It's not uncommon for a 55-year-old man to, when you do the sliders of what age range you're wanting to meet, it's not uncommon for a 55-year-old to put their max age at like 42. And for women who are 33, it's just like, are you kidding me? Because we have this notion that past a certain age, women are irrelevant. They're, completely invisible. They're just forgettable. Whereas for men, silver foxes, they, get better with age, that kind of thing. And it's all based on misogyny and sexism. It goes back centuries, and it has to do with childbearing years and women as objects and not real human beings. So I'm guessing that Cassidy's exasperation is a reflection of that frustration, which I don't blame her at all.
And then I moved here when I was 8.
My serious relationships, they've all been blonde.
Oh, really?
Okay, again, just reacting. We're piecing together a profile. There's a constellation of indications. I don't know about personality, of course, yet, and will never, because I'm watching a reality TV show, but there are some things that hang together here, because we all understand that in the United States anyway, we hold up youth, we hold up blonde women, we hold up women who work out because they're more likely to have a figure that is considered to be acceptable to society. And so that was what we hear from him. He doesn't want to be with someone who doesn't work out. I think he's signaling he doesn't want to be with maybe after this he'll say, well, but maybe I need to branch out. Let's see what he says.
Okay.
I just remember moving to America, seeing two things for the first time, seeing snow and blonde girls. And I felt the same way when I saw both. I was like, oh, wow. You like what you like, right? I mean,
Yeah, you like what you like, but some self-reflection might be in order. You might say, I wonder what's going on with me along these lines and why things haven't worked out for me up until this point.
Figured I should just get that out there right away.
Yeah.
You could just,
do what you want with that info.
Exactly. I'll be Shake. I go by Shake.
You've never dated an Indian girl?
Honestly, no.
That's so funny. I also go for the blondes. I've actually only dated white guys before.
We're both brown people that only date white people.
Again, people have preferences, or they grow up in a neighborhood or whatever. And so she is saying, Deep D, that she has also only mainly dated blonde men and white men. Okay, interesting detail.
So what do you do?
I'm a veterinarian, actually.
I love that.
I'm also a house DJ.
Oh my gosh, I love music.
If we were to be at a music...
Okay, he's a veterinarian and he's a house DJ. I don't know why that somehow fits in the situation, but again, notable.
Music festival. Do you like being on a guy's shoulders?
Yeah, you're up for the challenge, you can pick me up.
Yeah, but will I have trouble picking you up?
So I haven't showed all the things along these lines, and it makes sense that the cast members are trying to suss out some indication of what the other person looks like. And they're taking notes. They're meeting 15 potential partners. The whole idea is that they can't see the other person, but they're trying to take a guess. It seems like some people, like, who was it? I can't remember his name, but he was a real estate agent. What was his name? Shane. He resisted those kinds of questions. Even though from the way he looked like an attractive, fit guy, but he was getting questioned by at least one woman around, what his looks might be like. She was saying something like, oh, you're a real estate agent. Well, you must be good looking, right? And he's like, well, why would you ask that question? Even though, like I said, I think he could have easily said, well, I mean, yeah, I am good looking or something. I don't know. So there's been other little tests, if you will, or probes, questions that are trying to take it, without just flat out saying like, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, where do you put yourself? Or how much do you weigh? What's your BMI? Like, people aren't being that direct, but they're trying to get something. And so Shake is now in a manipulative way, in some like a round. It's one thing to just say, "Hey, sorry, I'm just trying to get a sense for I don't know, BMI." Anyway, so he is in this roundabout passive way, says, "Oh, you like to go to DJ shows?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, would you like to be on someone's shoulders?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a weird question." Is he trying to gauge her party affinity? And she's like, "Yeah, I could do that." And then he's like, "Well," and she's like, "You could do that for me." And he's like, "Well, would it be hard for me to pick you up?" Like, ick. I mean, there's nothing wrong, and other people have been doing it with like trying to take a guess. Would I be, because most people have markers of physicality that they're gonna, now of course, why would you go on the show if that's a big deal to you? But the way he asked, I don't know. If I was the recipient of that question, I'd be like, I'm out. Cross off the list.
Actually, that comes off very superficial. Shake doesn't understand how Love is Blind has to work here. The whole point is about finding out.
Yeah, good for her. Deep D says right away, well, I thought she was being extremely kind to him in his way. And then he asked that question, and I thought she was going to continue to be nice because that was the pattern up until that point. And then she very quickly, actually, that's pretty superficial. So good for her to be able to call that out. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.